Now I'd like to discuss the third pillar of my 7-pillar swing. We're going to actually combine two things here because one is so dependent upon the other. We're going to talk a little bit about alignment and ball position. One of the big mistakes that I see on a daily basis, almost all amateurs aim too far to the right. So if you can see the setup I have here, I have the orange rod that shows the alignment. The yellow rod shows our ball position, and we'll get into ball position in just a minute. But when we're talking about right alignment, instead of being parallel to this orange alignment rod I have down, I see most often amateurs aim way to the right of the target. From there, it's going to impact the takeaway. My target is now somewhere back over my left shoulder, so I get to the top of my swing and out and over the top I go. So what we really want to first and foremost learn is a very parallel alignment. I want your feet, your hips, your shoulders to all be parallel. Now, if you're a senior, there's nothing wrong with our foot placement. As long as we're comfortable to this line, our feet don't have to be dead square to the line in terms of just standing at a 90-degree angle here. As you can see where my foot goes 90 here. If you stand with your feet a little more toed out as I do, and especially for my senior players, that gives them a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more turn, and makes it easier for the body to make a backswing. Once we turn the feet in, it restricts movement on the takeaway. I see a lot of players that like to turn the left toe out coming through. That's fine. So I don't mind both of those feet being flared just slightly. Flaring out the feet does make it nice and easy for the senior player to make a little easier backswing, and then flaring the left toe out toward the target helps you turn through a little. But to quote my mentor in Harvey Penick, Harvey always used to call this just stand plain to the ball. And what Harvey meant by that was, if you stand with your toes turned in a little, stand naturally. If you stand with your feet flared out a little, stand naturally. That means plain to the ball. So get comfortable with your feet and your stance. Now, I mentioned earlier about most amateurs will aim to the right. However, we do see that occasional player that hits the big slice, and the more they aim to the more they slice the ball, the more they tend to aim to the left. So the feet, the hips, and the shoulders open up and are aimed way left of the orange alignment rod that you see here on the ground. And from that position, now my target is well to the right of where my body is aligned. You can see my shoulders, hips, and feet are aimed left. My target's out to the right. And so when I swing through, I'm not able to release the golf club and finish. That's going to result in usually even a bigger slice. So I see players that are hitting a big slice aim further and further left to accommodate their slice, and in reality all they're doing is making themselves open the club face more at impact and hit an even further slice. So we want to try to get as comfortable as we can with a nice square stance. These basic sound fundamentals are so important to building the consistency that you want in your swing. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about how reliant ball position and alignment really are with each other, because I can't change one without impacting the other. And with these alignment rods that I've shown on the ground, the orange one indicates my target line, where I want to always be parallel to this target line. I'm going to have my body, my feet, hips, and shoulders will always be parallel to my target line. The yellow rod that you see here is going to indicate where the ball is in my stance. So when I go to hit, and I've got a driver here, but we're going to go through some other clubs here in just a few minutes. When I go to hit a driver, I set the club down on the ground. I get my feet parallel with my hips and shoulders to the orange alignment rod. My hands are back in a nice position here, and you can see that that ball position's just inside my left heel. However, if I start to aim a little further to the right, and I'll reach down and just adjust this rod, you can see if I stay parallel at a 90-degree angle to that rod, if I just move my feet, you can now see that that rod is well ahead of my left foot, so the ball position has moved dramatically. So if I aim too far to the right, the ball position goes way forward. Now look how my shoulders don't match my hips and my feet. I have to be this way to reach the ball. Really, it leads to a tremendous amount of inconsistency and very poor strike on the golf ball. Now let's move it back just a moment here. We'll go back to a position here where we're about 90 degrees there. We'll set up again. And from there, I'm going to open the stance. So as I aim my feet, hips, and shoulders open or left of target, I'll move this rod again. And you can see that effectively moves the ball way back in my stance. So I would end up in this position. Again, shoulders don't match the hips and feet. As you can see, if we change our alignment even slightly, if I'm getting ready to hit a shot and I'm going to set this rod here, we're going to get back in a good setup position. And if I change my alignment just slightly, then I've got to move my feet to the right if I'm opening my stance to get the ball position to stay where I want it to be here. Or if I move my stance slightly closed, which would be aiming the other way, then I've got to move toward the target so that I can move the ball position back in my stance. So as you can see, I hope you understand that, you can't change one without impacting the other. So ball position is very, very reliant upon your alignment, and I want you to be sure and be comfortable with that. One other thing that I want to talk about here is ball position with the clubs, and I brought along several clubs for us to look at here just a moment. And we're going to take a look at how all of this impacts different positions with the hands and the golf ball. If I'm setting up here to this yellow rod and I'm hitting a sand wedge, you can see as we look right here, and I'll just move these clubs to my side so you can see easily here, that when I sole that club properly on the ground, the hands are just to the inside of my left thigh here. That gets me into a good position, and you can see that that puts the ball, or the yellow alignment rod, which indicates my ball position, at dead center in my stance. That's a very good position for a sand wedge. If I move a 6-iron into that position, you'll see that with the 6-iron, there's not quite as much angle. If you look at these two grips, as square as I can keep them to that yellow alignment rod, you'll see the 6-iron doesn't move quite as far forward. So when I'm going to hit a 6-iron, and I set it square to the alignment rod, my hands will still be forward of the yellow line. The club head will be on the back side of the yellow alignment rod. The hands will be slightly forward onto the front side. Now, my favorite today, almost all amateurs and a lot of tour players as well, and certainly you seniors, need to look at having a hybrid in your bag. They're a much easier club to hit than the long irons. The problem is, and the question that I often get is, why do I hook my hybrids? And most people look at a hybrid and they look at this club and it's shaped like a fairway wood. However, it's very, very different than a wood in terms of the angle. I would like for you to look right here just a moment and see when I sole the hybrid, it's very similar in angle to the 6-iron. So I want to keep the ball just slightly forward of center in my stance for my ball position, and my hands will still be slightly in front of the yellow alignment rod. Now, for just a moment, I want to go ahead and show you the difference between a hybrid and a fairway wood. We'll take a look at that just a second and let you see how those two are very different in their setup.